Hello, I'm Mary V. Today, let's talk about ways to get your bow flowing. So, it sounds very simple, but remember that the bow is vibrating the string. So, when you do strokes, think about the string just being completely still, and then just by your little stroke of the bow, you're actually vibrating the string. That really helps to understand and remember what's actually going on with the bow. So a lot of people do find themselves quite rigid. They're not able to move their wrist or their fingers, and their bow arm is also going in a curved direction like this. And it's going over the bridge, and it's going too near the fingerboard. It's just so difficult to make a nice sound. So making a nice sound on the open strings is a very basic but necessary thing that you need to do. So the first thing is to sort out the direction. And when you're doing a down bow, to counteract the curve of the body, you need to sort of point out the way like this. So the arm feels as if it's coming out like this, right out like that. That's the feeling, and it's a lovely feeling. And when you practice it, straighten your elbow so that you've got a nice push out. It can be very discouraging to be making a sound like that all the time, and it's really quite easy to practice the direction. Just long, slow bows in front of a mirror, have a look, and stop, close your eyes and see if you're right, and keep checking. And you just have to sort of memorize it. One thing that really works with bowing is to mime it. It really helps because you don't have to think about technical things. You can teach your body to remember these movements in a very easy way by miming. Miming is wonderful. It really helps. So the next thing is how to change the bow. I see a lot of bow changes that are absolutely rigid, like this. Eventually, we start to want a better sound. And we need to learn how to cushion the bow so that we can make beautiful bow changes like this. So let's have a look at bow changes, and you'll see that the movement is actually coming from the wrist. It's coming from the wrist first, and the fingers are, the shape of the hand isn't actually changing, right? The fingers are simply following what the wrist is doing, but it's a very small movement. It's not a large, exaggerated movement with lots of fingers. That just causes you much more trouble changing bow, especially at the heel. Yeah, it makes you lose control just at the crucial moment of changing at the heel like this. Have a look at your wrist and see what your wrist is doing. And notice my hand isn't actually changing shape, because it's absolutely ideal to be able to do a down bow with the same shaped hand as an up bow. Now you can see that all I'm doing is changing the bow with my wrist, and the fingers are sort of following it like that, right? That's all that's happening, but the actual hand shape is exactly the same. So let's go to the way that you hold the bow. I see a lot of people holding the bow just with the fingertips, but you're missing out on the crucial role of the first finger if you can't straighten your first finger out and use it. If you look at great violinists on YouTube, you'll see that they're using their first fingers, they're straightening it out to get more control, more weight, more heaviness, they're using it all the time, like this. Now, I'm able to do that because I'm not holding the bow with the tip of my finger. I'm not even holding the bow with the first knuckle here. I'm holding the bow with the bow curled around the second knuckle there. That's how I do it, right? And I'll show you how to get there. What you do is slide all your fingers down a little bit until your first finger is actually curled around the bow like that. You see? Actually like that. There's so much more control. There's so much more expressiveness and freedom that you have. Because as a matter of fact, if you hold the bow with just the tips of the fingers, it makes the wrist very, very rigid. It's actually very difficult. If you waggle the bow around at the heel, you'll see that there's a tremendous weight on the pinky and everything feels very rigid. I can not move my wrist very easily. That's something that a lot of people would really benefit from, just having more contact with the bow and wrapping your fingers right round the bow like that. And actually, the wrist is incredibly important in bowing because, you know, it's a natural thing that the wrist is higher at the heel and it changes shape when it's at the point. Now, if you're not able to actually move your wrist a little bit like that, you might end up not being able to really do nice long bows because you can only kind of do that, really. So the other thing is, make sure that your bow is loose inside your hand and there's plenty of wrist movement. Do you see the wrist movement there? So the other thing is that you can lift your pinky when you come to the upper half because the hand sort of needs to curve round when you're at the tip and it needs to come this way when it's at the heel. So the hand is sort of making a sort of little curve like that, right? And if you want to lift your pinky, do that. It's fine. Anything to break through the rigidity that you might be feeling. So another thing to remember, I've mentioned this before, but it's to think about the forearm when you're coming to the heel. There are plenty of tutorials about how to change the bow. Some of them I think involve far too much movement. For example, the one to imagine your fingers are like paintbrushes and you're doing that. I mean, I think that causes a lot of extra hand shape changes that aren't very useful to you. They get in the way. The more you can simplify and make your movements really very simple and small when you're doing something repetitive, it's much, much better. Because when you play fast, you haven't got time to paint with a paintbrush or do that stuff. The way that we play when we're playing fast should really be the basis of how we play slowly. It should all relate. There shouldn't be too much extra put in. Yes, you can put in extra expressiveness and movement when you're at the heel and you're playing very slowly. I'm letting my forearm help me enormously there by, as I gradually come towards the heel, I'm taking the weight of the bow with my forearm, and my wrist and fingers are not under strain at all. They don't have any extra strain, and they can do what they do in any part of the bow. I mean, have a look at how you change the bow in the upper half. Notice that the wrist and the fingers are doing exactly the same as what they do in the middle and what they do at the heel. Now, that is actually ideal. It's very, very simple. There's not excessive movement and there's plenty of flexibility. That's really what you need. So a lot of people do experience problems with rigidity and they find it very difficult. But if you do miming, if you look in front of the mirror and you know what you're kind of aiming for, just a little movement like that, then that's it. As long as you know what you're aiming for, you'll be able to start putting it into your playing. So I hope you get on well with your bowing experiments, and I hope that something in this film has helped you. So I'll say bye-bye for now. Bye.